Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Looks like the mic is working, and it looks like Interplanetary Network is here. Hey, what's going on? How are you? I don't even know how I'm alive right now after last night's stream. That was actually a really intense show. 8 hours stream last night, and here I am ready to do some more stuff. What's going on, everybody? And somehow my camera is acting really, really stupid now. Oh boy, let's see if we can try to fix this. Hold on for 1 second. Let's deactivate and activate. Does this work? Yes. Woohoo! We can fix those technical difficulties right when they start. Yes, booty glitches everywhere. What's going on? Yes, and that's starting to do that again. This is really, really messed up. Hold on for 1 second. Let's try it one more time. Deactivate. Activate. Now this should work. And for some reason, it's not now. Go friggin' fig. The time when I really need this to work is starting to act really, really stupid and really, really silly. Oh boy. Yes, indeedy. How are you guys doing? Interplanetary Network. Yes, you're here to watch off the wonderful booty glitches of this thing. Let's see if we can try to fix this camera one more time. Hold on for 1 second, please. Let's see if this is working this time. And camera's frozen. Let's try it one more time. Snap cam. Deactivate. Activate. Great. Our camera is not working today. This is not good. But anyhow, you can still see the DAW. That's the most important thing right now. You might not be able to see my face right now, but I will fix that somehow by getting another cable together for this. So what I'm going to do is this. Joe Dude's in the house, coming in here just in time for a booty glitch. The camera was working right before the stream, before I turned on the streaming button. So yeah, so what we're going to do is this. What we usually do here, I would talk a little bit about the DAW, how it works, and for all those new viewers out there who've never seen this DAW before, it is Acid Pro. But what I'm going to do right now is I want to load up one of the projects that I wanted to showcase for this week's show. I'm going to start with this one. Now, this is a project that's actually on SoundGroove Records, and it's by my good friend Manny Ward. I talk about him a lot because we work together as Retrotech, but this is one of his solo projects that he did with two of his friends in the West Coast, Damiano and TO3. I wound up doing a remix to this, and it's more of an old school style remix. It kind of simulates like an old style 80s acid house track. So what I want to do, I want to start this, and then while this is playing, I'm going to try to fix the camera so you can see my ugly mug and see that I'm still actually alive and I'm not an avatar. So let me turn this down, and while you're checking out the DAW for this mix and this sequence, I'll try to fix the camera. This is Let Me See You by Manny Ward, Damiano, and TO3. This is my remix to it, and it's available on SoundGroove Records. Check this out. DJ Conrad in the house. How are you? How are you? PA Cub 21. How are you doing? So yeah, I had the total freedom to go in any type of direction I wanted with this remix. So I decided to do something very old school with this. And cool, it looks like the camera is finally working. Again, booty glitches everywhere. So yeah, that's giving you a nice little sample of Let Me See You. This is my remix to that song by Manny Ward, TL3, Damiano. So, like I said, very old school. I decided I was just gonna go, just totally go there, like, and do something different than I usually would do with my remixes, and, you know, this actually worked pretty well for me. I was mimicking a lot of the stuff that you would hear like in late 80s, early 90s house. Like obviously you can hear the perk organ, which of course there was like a huge controversy with the perk organ over like, you know, Beyonce's recent record. But we're not gonna talk about that. You know, that's like one of the most used instruments on all of house music. It's been around since Korg did the M1, and everyone's have used the perk organs. If you guys don't know what a perk organ is, I mean, I'm sure you guys will know as soon as I play it. Let me see if I can try to find where I used it right here. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways to play that perk organ, and there's a bunch of different versions of it these days. And of course, right now I can't find it on my sequence, even though it's here. Let's see. Let's see if it's right here. Let me see what's going on right here. Let me mute this and let's play the things. Let's play the instruments by themselves. Well, no, that's the snare. The snare was actually more like, let's see. In fact, there is an actual record I got that idea from the snare from. It was by D-Mob. Do anyone remember who D-Mob is? Some of you might do it. Danny D was the main producer of that group, and at the time he did records with then just a vocalist named Kathy Dennis. They had a couple of hits over the late 80s, early 90s, and they did a song called That's the Way of the World, and they actually have that snare pattern, which is right here. And I just took a snare noise and I copied it with over a beat. There was a lot of snares in house music back then. You know, for some reason, snares were really, really hot late 80s, early 90s when it came to a lot of the electronic dance music. So I definitely went too far back for the bass noise, and here it is. This is where the bass noise comes in. So check this out. In the perk organ. See, it's one of the most common sound effects in house music. And then this one I doubled it up a little bit just where it can feel more like a bass and not just a regular tone. Not just a regular synth noise or a pad or anything like that. I really wanted to make it sound like a bass. And you can definitely tell when you double it up. It's low and high. 1 octave off. That's by itself. With a little bit of a bass behind it. A little lower version of it behind there. And it kind of, you can hear it a little bit more over the kick noise and stuff like that. Put it all together. I'm trying to remember exactly where Manny got the vocal sample from. I can't remember it right now, but it was a well-known record back in the day. 50 points if anyone can tell me which one it is. And yes, obviously the siren. I mean, there was a lot of sirens in acid house back in the day. Like, you know, if you listen to any of the older 80s, late 80s, early 90s stuff. And all you have to do, of course, to get more of an effect with that. Oh boy, this is the actual sound effect by itself. I just used a piece of it. I didn't use the entire thing. Didn't really need it because at that point, all you have to do is simple delay and reverb, and you can make it go as long as you want to. And that's all you really needed. Just a little bit of a blast, a little bit of a siren blast. That always works in these types of old school sounding records. And yeah, this is available right now on SoundGroove Records. This is actually one of my favorite remixes that I've done because I was able to go completely out of my usual comfort zone. And it really forced me to like try to make a record in a completely different style. Well, a different style, a different way, different sound. I was mostly used to just doing tribal and things like that. But like this got me rethinking how I was going to use instruments. I used a completely different kick. I wound up using a lot of different style instruments than what I would normally use in remixes. And normally when you see my remixes and my sequences, you would notice certain sound effects and certain loops and instruments that are always there. Like we were talking about the shakers, how like I have a tendency to use the same tambourines, the same cymbals, just to have like a little bit of a signature. And on this, I think the only thing that's common was the shaker, and there's the ride noise that I usually use, and then of course the infamous Rihanna violin drama, that little violin string that I sampled when I made my first Rihanna remix. Hold on. But beyond that, everything else is all new sounds. I just used them the way I normally would use them. And actually, I think it came out pretty good. I hope you guys liked it. It's available on SoundGroove, like I said before. Manny Ward, Damiano, and TO3. Let me see you. And it's good to be able to show records like this because otherwise I'm showing you nothing but a bunch of bootlegs. And I think my camera just went out again. Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Is this just going to be one of these days where everything just goes wrong? I think it is. Okay, so looks like my camera went out again. What's going to happen now? I'm going to just cue up track number 2. Okay, so this happens to be a white label remix that I did when I was in college, when I was actually not in Salem State College. But when I went back to college about 10 years ago, about 7-8 years ago, and someone actually told me about this group, and I had never heard them before. And it was interesting when I heard them because it sounded like it was a duet, male and female, and they made a lot of records where they just kind of sang over piano, and genuinely that would be kind of boring or just kind of basic and kind of like standard stuff that I was thinking it's gonna be more like folk music, but not 70 years, Conrad. I'm not that old yet, although I feel it tonight after last night's stream. But that's a different story. But the name of the group was called Oh Wonder. Now I don't know a lot of people who know about this group. I certainly didn't know about them when I first heard about it. But a college kid told me about it. Someone just said that you might like their music, and next thing you know, I'm listening to a bunch of their things on Spotify, and I'm just really getting into it. Well, anyhow, they did a record on one of their albums. Well, most of their albums were just basically their vocals with piano, and they would always chorus. They would always sing the same notes. They would always try to harmonize with one another. It's very simple what they did for music, but it was effective. So they did this one song on one of their albums called All We Do, and it was just piano and their vocal. Very easy to just take that and just run with it with a remix. And you've seen me do stuff like that before, and here is another instance of that. I want to start this from the beginning, and once again I'm going to try to fix my camera. My goodness, these beauty glitches. But anyhow, this is Oh Wonder, my private remix, and the name of the track is called All We Do. So check this out. true to my usual fashion, lots of beats to mix into, but then when it kicks in, you'll hear the actual track playing over these beats. And that's the piano from the original that I just simply made a loop out of. Makes it a little bit easier to sequence with it. This pad right here, they give this a slightly more dramatic bass line because there was no bass line on the original. It was just piano and vocal, so it was very easy to add the bass line to this. So let's go back to the remix. Very simple remix to do, and I just got very, very, very particular with certain parts. Obviously, you can see with the envelopes, I got very, very particular with how loud or how soft some of the elements were. You know, it's a very delicate record because it was just vocal and piano, so I wanted to make sure that like all the different elements were heard properly and didn't go too loud or too soft on it. So yeah, Oh Wonder, very interesting group. And yeah, I used a lot of my traditional sound effects and loops in this. The strings are Miroslav as usual. I will put those strings in just about anything. and with a lot of, in this time, a lot of reverb, a lot of reverb and delay, so it can have like that more dreamy effect. If you want to hear like the strings by themselves. With the vocal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the vocal on right here. That's the original. And remember, the vocal already has the piano on there, so I didn't have to add any additional piano to this. And together, they sound really good together. So check this out.
I've been upside down. I don't wanna be the right way round. Can't find paradise on the ground. I've been upside down. I don't wanna be the right way round. Can't find paradise on the ground.
Very simple, very easy. Once again, I'm gonna show you here like my typical use of the reverb and the simple delay plugins. Again, I use a lot of the plugins that come with the DAW because mainly they're optimized for the program, and I don't have to worry about them like overloading a machine, especially if I'm using an older computer. Now I want to see if I can try to get this up here for you. Like, I warmed up putting things together in buses. Yes, here we go. So I labeled all these different buses, A, B's, and C's. This way, what I could do is what I like to do this a lot sometimes with certain parts of the record. In this case, I did this with the violin. I knew I was going to be using like the same effects on certain types of effects, certain levels of effects on the violins, no matter if it was the high end or the low end of it. So what I did, instead of trying to like put the plugins on every single track and try to EQ it exactly the same, what you can do is like you can actually just lay everything together in a bus. And I think I did it here on this one. Let's see. No, I just have everything sent to B. Let me see. Let me see on C. Did I send anything over here? No, I actually didn't. So I actually did a lot of sends, but I didn't actually do what I thought I did on this project. So I'll have to show that to you in a different project. But what usually happens is this. You're able to make as many buses as you want, and they're labeled A through whatever letters you want. And then from there, all the audio from all the audio that you will play from this would be sent to a bus where you can actually have your own EQs, you can have your own effects, and it will apply to all of the audio that's sent there, and it comes back out with all the same effects. So like, in a way, I could make every single one of these strings have the same exact reverb and simple delay without having to do it all three times in each one of the tracks here. I can send all three of them to bus B, and then from here put a reverb and a delay and a compressor or whatever else that I want on it, and all three of them will get the effect at once. So sometimes that comes in handy, especially when you're trying to deal with, like, multiple takes and multiple parts of the same instrument or the vocal or whatever it is, and you're layering things, and yeah, it saves a little bit of time. But I thought I did it on this, and I didn't. Go fig. What? Well, anyhow, I'm sure I'll be able to show you that in more detail on another project. Either that, or when we get to our production tracks, like the two that we started already, we'll start doing that with like a particular instrument, and we'll show you how the buses work with Acid. I mean, it's pretty simple, similar to like just about any other DAW that's out there, and it will save you a lot of time and a lot of energy. But yes, Oh Wonder, very interesting group. If you've never heard of them before, I will check out a lot of their stuff on Spotify. Kinda easy listening, kinda alternative, a little bit of both. Very interesting group, and I certainly would have never discovered them if it wasn't for like that kid in college. So much love to him for turning me on to this interesting group. Every so often now, I always check out what they have brand new, because then I'm thinking, they may have another record with a piano track just behind it. It might be worth remixing that one as well, just to have another vocal, But yeah, I'm gonna actually I'm gonna actually remaster and start playing this again. I haven't played it in a very long time, so it's really good to find it again in my archives. Oh wonder, all we do, the Midnight Society remix, and I'm actually going to go to the next record here. Now, the next one, I'm really proud of. Well, I'm kind of proud of all my records, but really this one especially. It's by Laverne Cox. Now, we all know Laverne Cox, transgender woman, beautiful actress. She has been on Orange is the New Black and a whole bunch of other amazing shows on television and things like that. And she wound up doing this record completely by accident. Like, the story behind it was that, like, she just was kind of carrying on, and she wasn't even intending to make this into an actual record, but, like, at some point they're like, oh, we have to do something with it because the girls would like this on the dance floor. So I was actually lucky enough to remix this. And it was actually it's actually available. I think Tom Stefan did a remix, and a bunch of other people did remixes as well. There's like 2 parts to this, and I know it's on Beatport. I know it's on iTunes. This actually did pretty well for us on Billboard as well. And this is, as you can tell by the title, the name of the song is "Beat for the Gods." So it's very much a tribute to like ballroom culture, runway, voguing, and all that other stuff. So if you're into those type of energetic records, which, you know, I like them, I love them. I love the houses, the House of Extravaganza, the Ninjas, the Revlons, etc., etc., etc. I love all that stuff. I can't vogue, but, you know, you don't have to know how to vogue in order to actually like the culture. So I got a chance to remix this song, and I decided to like be very, very much like combine the beat that's kind of like consistent with ballroom these days with like some more old school elements, and then of course with Laverne's vocals, which were really fun and silly on this record, but like I absolutely loved it. So, and I actually haven't played this in a while, so again, this is something I'm gonna have to like dig out and start playing again, especially since it actually is available and people can actually get their hands on this. This is Laverne Cox with Beat for the Gods. This is the Midnight Society remix. Let me give you a sample of it right now. You can hear the big like snare crash on the 4th beat. 1, 2, 3. That simulates a very popular record in ballroom culture. Cookie Monster's in the house. How you doing, Mr. Cookie Monster? How are you doing this evening? Cookie Monster. It's just another Monday and another time to get together and try to make some music.
Beat for the gods, dusted and carved, dress barely fitting, and this face is fitting, and I'm beat.
That actually would be really funny. Cookie Monster, I would love to do that. Well, we're just gonna stop it for right there for right now. But Laverne Cox, this was a lot of fun to do, and of course the vocal is very nonsensical. It's just an excuse to just get people, like, if you've been to a ball before, you know, they give you those types of very pompous, very high energetic, very catty, very, very, as you would say, cunty, you know, very those lyrics that will just get people hyped up on the dance floor, but, like, you know, very MC-ish, you know, encouraging people to just get out there on the dance floor and just do their, you know, do their walk, do their dips, do their everything. And speaking of which, that loud crashing noise that I created here, a lot of people who might know something about ballroom culture, you know, there is an infamous record that was made by Masters at Work many, many years ago called The Ha Dance. And when they made this record, they had no idea that it would become, like, you know, a gay man's ballroom anthem. But that's exactly what wound up happening, because, like, it would always exaggerate the fourth beat in the measure with this big, loud sound effect, a big crash. And they used a vocal from the movie Trading Places. A lot of people don't realize that that's where they got the that little chant came from that movie with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, and you can actually find that video, that clip, on YouTube everywhere. But that's what they sampled, and they made an entire record off of that, not thinking it was going to be anything beyond what it was, just something to fill up a record. And literally, that is like the gay man. That's like the gay man's amen break. Like, you wouldn't have ballroom music the way it is today without the Ha Dance. The same way you wouldn't have a lot of drum and bass without the amen break. And, you know, the amen break, that you could do an entire segment on that drum beat that came off of, that was like the B-side off of a record, like, that came out like in the 1960s or late 60s or something like that. It wasn't even meant to be the main record, but they took the break off of it and literally spawned genres on top of genres off of that one loop or one sample that wasn't even more than like 5 or 10 seconds. It was that powerful. But, you know, I didn't actually sample the original Ha Dance, because to create something similar is actually pretty easy. So, like, all I did was I just took a loud snare noise and a rumble and occasionally I would just put them together and make sure that they would always fall on the 4. So, like, on the record, like, people would do, like, of course, if you're voguing or doing runway, you would do your most exaggerated move on the 4 or the death drop or whatever it is. So I just kind of simulated that idea on this record as well. So check this out. So see, together you wind up getting like almost that similar effect of the Ha 1, 2, 3, 4. It might be a little bit easier to hear that with the kick and you'll understand what I'm talking about. So we'll start here. This will be on the first beat, and then you'll know. Hit it, ha. So it'd be very easy to do something very similar all throughout the record. And, you know, every so often you had to stop the record to do it, just to give emphasis to the fact that, like, yes, people are going out and doing their thing on the dance floor. And yeah, this is like, again, this is like a lot of fun to do this record. Another part that I kind of sampled or mimicked, I didn't actually sample the original record on this one as well. There was a breakdown where I sampled Acid Crash. I keep saying sampling, but I actually replayed it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get to that point here. You know, I wanted to have references to more old school records on this because we are referencing Ballroom. And one of the main things that they like to do in Ballroom is also like pay homage to the music and the people who were in the scene before them. You know, they have ways of like teaching old school with the new school with a lot of the stuff that they do in Ballroom. So I did my own version of Acid Crash. And let's see, I have it right here. Let's see what it sounds like. And yeah, Acid Crash is another classic house record from the 80s. And I just basically just try to recreate it my own way. I use my own sound. I use my own synth noise here. Which, let me enlarge this a little bit. And yeah, VE2, this is the simple synth noise from here. The ironic thing, they call it the best, these the best synths. And, you know, I wouldn't call them the best synths. I would call them probably the most typical ones that you would hear in records. But they come in handy when you want to try to do something like that's very typical and that get a sound effect that's very recognizable. And all I had to do was just make a little tiny note, simple, and just let it play. And on this one, I actually created this part and made it into its own loop. And that way it was a little bit easier to draw and make the effects that I needed with it instead of trying to put all these different elements one by one into it. And at that point, all you would need is just a little bit of a flange, a distortion, the filter. When you take the filter off, now you can hear exactly what the synth normally would sound like without the filter. But with the filter on, you can get that very interesting little effect to the vocal. Not the vocal, the synth. I don't even know the difference between a vocal and a synth today. My God, I am exhausted from that stream last night. I wonder if any of you guys are out there. Cookie Monster, what about Zombie Nation song? What about Zombie Nation song? Is that classic? Yeah, that's a classic these days. A lot of people know that song and that synth noise that's in it. So yeah, I'm not gonna bore you too much with this, but yeah, you could definitely find out that record. There's Acid Crash. There's two different versions of it. There is one that became really popular off of a bootleg, and then there is the other one on Dance Tracks. There's a couple of different versions of it, and you can actually buy that. I think they digitized that on Beatport a while ago. Let's see. Venturous the Gamer, DJ C. Atchison, is the master of all things DJ. Well, I try. I don't think I'm the master, but I do try. But I do appreciate the shout. Thank you so much for all that. Is there anything else worth showing on this Laverne Cox? I mean, this was a rather simple remix because you just wanted just enough elements to just celebrate the old school with voguing beats and keep it just slightly modern. Very simple, very easy to put together. And yeah, this is available right now. I think this mix is on part 2 of the remixes. There's like 2 parts, each one having like 6, 7 different remixes, so there's plenty of them. And I know Tom Stefan, aka Super Chumbo, did an amazing one as well. So check it out. Go on Beatport or iTunes or wherever you like to go buy your music, and check it out. Laverne Cox, Beats for the Gods. And yeah, I don't think Laverne Cox is going to do another record because she never planned to actually do the first one. But if she does, and she gets, if she can hear me anywhere out there in the cosmos, if she ever decides to do another record, I'd like to remix it as well. Love to support all my fierce members of the LGBTQ community. You know, it's good to know that I like have my name and my work associated with people like Laverne Cox. By the way, I actually have her doll too. Like they made as an aside, they made a Barbie doll, the first transgender woman Barbie, and they made it off of Laverne Cox. So I actually have it here in the studio. But you know, I'm not gonna like turn my studio into like a toy store, a toy store stream. I'm certainly not doing anything like that. But that's just showing you just how much I love her. Laverne Cox. Go buy the record if you like it. Next record that I'm going to show you, this is actually like one of my older projects, and I still get a lot of airplay on this one. I did it many moons ago when I used to do the Winter Music Conference down in Miami, and I had to always come down there with like a very unexpected surprise when it comes to remixes. I always wanted to surprise the dance floor with like something they did not know was coming. And I wanted to do this record for a very long time, and then I finally got together and said, screw it, it's finally going to happen, and we're going to do it. You might have heard me play it a couple of times on my stream. It is the KLF, and I think most people here will know this group. Interesting group from the from the late 80s and early 90s. And yeah, they're a little eccentric. Apparently, like they actually had a concert where they shot a whole bunch of rubber bullets into the crowd and all sorts of other craziness. And then there's also these stories that they like actually took like 1 million pounds and set it on fire. And when they decided that they were going to disband, they like tried to erase all of their music. Like their music was apparently nowhere to be found after they decided to get out of the game. And you know, there's a lot of crazy stories. I think there's a documentary about them right now that like I really want to take a look at. But what's funny is this: I decided to like take a couple of parts from the beginning and the end of the vocal because like, you know, there was enough of 3 a.m. Eternal to just make like a little silly dub. And at one point, well, let me play you this. Let me actually just play you what I did first before I go into more detail about the weirdness of the KLF and the members of that group. But yeah, I did this as a surprise, and again, this is not in my traditional style of tribal or anything like that, but it did very well for me down in Miami, and I still get a lot of fun. I still have a lot of fun playing this once in a while. So here we go. I want to start from here. This is my remix to 3 a.m. Eternal. Check this out.
frío.
Yeah, there's a few places in the original record that you could easily sample, and I'll show you the few places that I used just to create this crazy little dub of mine. I did this remix back in 2009, so 13 years ago I did this. Let me fast forward a little bit. Around that time, there was a lot of people doing electro back then too. So I figured I would dabble into it a tiny bit, not go full on electro, but you can kind of feel the influence here. So yeah, very simple, very basic idea for a remix. But it definitely came in handy. And it was a complete surprise to everyone. It was a complete surprise to everyone I brought this down to Miami that year. They were not expecting for me to do something kind of electro sounding. And they certainly weren't expecting a dance remix to the KLF. Now, getting some of the parts for this record was a little bit of a challenge, not because like you know back then we didn't have the AIs, we didn't have La 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 or anything like that, and Resolute wasn't not Melodyne wasn't nearly as good as it is now to be able to get parts. So you had to find them from different versions of the song. Now, you know, when the KLF was out there making a lot of mixes, you know, if you bought the maxi single, the maxi CD, or the vinyl, or whatever it is, you can find different versions, different mixes of this record everywhere. And certain versions had this part a cappella, this part clean, this part clean. In fact, I'm sure like if you went through all the mixes, you could probably get all the, like, not all the parts, but enough of the parts from this record to, like, you know, do your own mixes. But who would have ever thought about that unless you're like a producer or a nerd who has nothing else better to do, like me, and just figured these parts might exist someplace. So what I did, I'm gonna try to remember. I don't remember all of the mixes where it came from, but the let's see. We're gonna start off with not the chorus. we'll go down the list of sound effects right here. This is Radio Freedom. That sample obviously came from the original mix, and I'm gonna start going through the parts one by one here, so you can actually get this at the beginning of the regular radio edit.
This is Radio Freedom.
And all I did is I sampled it right there with a little bit of reverb, and then right afterwards would be the gunshots. And as you can see, I just took that part and I just made the gunshots go a little bit longer. People were expecting it to just end very quickly when they realized what it was. And yeah, might have fun with it. Why not?
This is Radio Freedom.
Yeah. I wanted to make the the gunshots seem like they were never ending, because that was like a very crazy intro for any type of record. I mean, I know some of you guys would know what that record is. The chorus, believe it or not, the chorus that they had in the record was actually pretty simple. That was like a chorus pad. They, most keyboards will have like an ooh or an ah that you can actually just sample and just play right off the keyboard. And then if you just put a filter behind it, you wind up being able to create a lot of those effects. And yeah, if you do it right, it sounds like they actually have like a full chorus singing behind them, and you think you have to sample vocals, but no, those are actual synth noises. This was the pad that I wound up making by itself. Yeah, and yeah, you can do that with almost any synth. They have chorus oohs and chorus ahs, and then you play your pads, and then I actually made that into a loop, make it a little bit easier to work with, and of course a little bit of a filter, a little bit of reverb, because reverb makes everything dreamy. So a lot of those rough edits from the original seem to get glossed over a little bit because of the reverb and the resident filter. Let's see something here very quickly. There is a question over here. Don't want to burp in your ear, obviously. Cookie Monster, have you heard of Human by Rag the Bones Man? Believe it or not, yes, I have. And believe it or not, that is actually a record I really wish I could remix. I was really thinking about doing that one. In fact, that was one of the rare, little story time about that. That was one of the rare times I actually tried to reach out to the artist and the label to see if I could get parts to remix it. I didn't hear anything back from them because, who knows what ever happened, You sometimes put your services out there. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't. But either way, I definitely have heard of that record. I definitely know who Rag and Bones Man is. And yeah, if I can ever get my hands on the actual clean acapella of Human, I might actually try to do something with that sometime in the not too distant future. PA Cub 21. Where is Jenny Bean K? Yeah, where is she? I love her. She would appreciate this. The show or this mix. Either way, I love Jenny Bean. Maybe we can give her a copy of something. Maybe we can give her a copy of this. I will give copies to this. That actually kind of leads into this weird story that I have about the KLF. Now, when I put this mix up, I didn't put it up for sale, obviously. I didn't want the KLF coming after me. They are crazy. Bill Drummond, Jimmy Culty, they are crazy people. I didn't want them shooting rubber bullets through my window, trying to, make money off their records that they don't even sell anymore. But anyhow, I posted a sample of this on SoundCloud somewhere, not for download, just so that people could hear it. And at one point, the KLF had a very strange website. I wish I could find it now in the Wayback Machine. But they actually made a page that was dedicated to all the bootlegs and white labels of their records, and they listed all of the mixes. Like, you know, as long as you weren't selling it, as long as you weren't trying to try to make money off their stuff, they were fine. But they had actually mentioned my mix on that website, so I'm like, holy crap, they actually found it. Okay, so it's a small world after all. And yeah, so that was like their way of saying, like, you know what, we kind of know it exists. We'll put it on our page. Yeah, of course, there it is. And yeah, that was like my weird, brief online encounter with the members of the KOLF. I kind of wish I could meet them in person, but, like, you know, they kind of intimidate me. Maybe I'll have to see the documentary first before I do anything of this sort. But someone did make mention of this mix on their website, and one day I'll dig through the Wayback Machine and I'll try to find the page where they listed it. And that way you can see it. You can only imagine. I was just like, holy crap! They know where I live. Oh my God! You know, nothing bad happened from this, and you know, it's actually kind of good to know that they acknowledged it. But everything else. Let's see. We talked about the chorus, the main hook, which is basically a lot of the vocals. This was also available off of one of their other mixes. So again, like, getting the parts to this, you wanted to, like, buy the maxi singles, and sometimes you needed to buy the maxi single from a different country because they had certain mixes available only on the Japanese imprint or the German imprint or whatever it is. And, you know, that still happens with a lot of records today. But check this. You have this part. You know, and this other vocal, of course.
It's 3 a.m., 3 a.m., it's 3 a.m., eternal.
And then I chopped up the eternal part and made my own little stutter at the end of it. With a simple volume envelope, I can make that little extra effect instead of trying to get like an actual delay program to actually do that on tempo, which can be which can be a big problem as is. I just decided to do it that way manually, and then, you know, it gives you the right effect. And, you know, I also got the crowds sampled from the original as well, and you get that down here. You can just, yeah, and then, you know, there's plenty of parts on all of these mixes that you can just play around with and just have a lot of fun with it. And that's exactly what I wound up doing, you know. And this was a really fun remix for me. A fun remix where people found out that I did it and gave me my little acknowledgement, like, yeah, you did it, cool. And that's about it. I don't really play this record that much, but, like, you know, I might start playing it more often. And yeah, tell Jenny Bean, if she wants a copy, to let me know. I'll talk to her about it. The KOLF 3 a.m. Eternal 13-year-old remix, and still getting a little bit of life even up to this day. Okay, so let's see. It's a little bit after 10 o'clock. We still got about a little bit more than an hour to go. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try to load up one of the projects that we had started previously. We're going to go and find, let's see. We are going to go find the production stuff that we started. Producer, let's see, is it in this folder? No, it's in this folder right here. The producer folder, where we have our two projects. And then, yeah, right here, production stuff. We got the furthest on this one so far. And I think, let's see where we were last time. Okay. Oh, yeah, so this is where we were. Okay, now remember, for the people who haven't seen this before, these projects got started because I wanted to show the very basic features of what Acid Pro could do. And this will give me a chance to give people that little lesson and that little history, because when I first started the show, my camera was freezing like crazy and booty glitching and all that other stuff. So I wasn't able to like do that little demo. But the main thing is, again, this program came out in the late 90s by Sonic Foundry, and it was owned by, it was not by Apple, they were owned by Sony for many, many years after Sonic Foundry decided to sell the program to them. And the program almost became non-existent because Sony only did like one update. They decided not to follow up with the project anymore, and it just kind of faded into the sunset. Not many people knew about it, except for the people who knew what this could do with loops and things like that. And it still remains one of the most powerful tools for loops. But, you know, they didn't make a Mac version. Ableton Live came around. FL Studio came around, and a lot of other programs started mimicking exactly what Acid Pro could provide and do it very well. So there was almost no need for this program to have a spotlight anymore. But then Magic Software comes along and buys the rights to this program from Sony. So there's been a lot of extra updates with this program. PA Cub 21. Thank you for stopping by. Hopefully we'll see you back here again soon for either another production stream or for another DJ stream, which of course I'm DJing next on Wednesdays, but I will go over that schedule a little bit later, and I'll post all that information on my socials anyhow. But thank you for stopping by. Okay, so Acid Pro is now owned by Magic Software, and they've made a variety of different updates. They're being very aggressive trying to get this back into the spotlight. It's a little difficult with them now because FL Studio and Ableton and Logic have so much of the market share when it comes to DAWs. And of course, GarageBand, which is another program that does a lot of what this does. So there's a lot more competition. But this program is still really, really cool and very kick-ass. Especially if you're a PC user, because if you're PC, you don't have GarageBand, but this can do what GarageBand does and then some. Like, it's super powerful. But anyhow, the main thing is with this program is that you could drop any loop or any sound effect that you have, and it will automatically stretch the tempo, a tempo setting that you set here. So I actually went through and in real time just picked up random loops from my sample folder and just decided I'm just going to make grooves so people can see and watch it happen in real time. And in the process, we wound up creating a couple of grooves that were really nice. So I decided to save them, and I figured during the show we can always go back to this and just try to add more to it and see exactly what happens. And if it becomes like a track that we really want to release or actually complete, I would give this track out to people who are subscribed to our station, to my station here. That way there'll be a little incentive to support, and I can give out some free music to people. I can give out actual tracks that I showcase here, you know. That would actually be kind of cool. If you guys are into that thing, just consider the subscription if you do. But anyhow, this is what we wound up creating thus far with this groove. And what I'm going to do, I want to play it from the beginning, and then we're going to decide exactly what else to do with this. So check this out for right now. So that's what we have thus far, and about 3 minutes into the track, and we've added a bunch of different things. We have a bass, we have the drum grooves that we first started, a little bit of white noise just to add for transitional effects, the violin, we added like a little guitar right here, which we built a little guitar synth and just filtered it in and out a little bit so it has like a little bit more of a musical instrument on top of this groove, on top of the pads. And then of course the pad itself, which ironically is a pad that I used on a remix back in 2003 for Magna Recordings, and found it grabbed it completely by accident. It wasn't even trying to actually use it again, but it sounds really good. So I decided to keep it, and we're gonna kind of base our groove on this pad. So what I want to do right now actually on this is, because as this was playing, this was really starting to get to me a little bit, only because I know that the clarity on the track, it's a little low in certain points, and I definitely want this to sound a little bit clearer, only because when I add the extra instruments to it and things like that, at least from that point, it will sound like an actual track that's almost playable, and it'll be a little bit easier for sound placement. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use one of the most easiest and basic programs that I use for mastering. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Master Bus, going to hit on the FX chain here, and I don't have anything on here just yet, but that's going to change. I'm going to get rid of that morph synth. I don't understand why they add that to every channel. I'm going to have to talk to someone over at Magix about that and see if that's a glitch or something. But I'm going to go and load up my old and trusty Izotope Ozone 3. Now, luckily, this plugin, after many, many years, still works on a PC, even in Windows 10. I mean, this has been around forever. They're actually getting ready to do a newer version of Ozone. I have Ozone 9. I actually have that here, and it's really, really high-end. It's really, really cool. But, there's a ton of parameters to it, so, I haven't had a chance to really dive into it as much as I would like to. But, for doing something really, really quick, Ozone 3 or Ozone 4 really gets the job done very easily. And you'll see what I mean. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to bring this up here. There's a lot of presets that you can already tell. You can use the presets from there, or you could just go completely blind into it. But there is a preset that I like to use because it gets me, I would say, at least halfway, if not a little bit more, with whatever projects I'm doing, to try to beef up the bass, make the mid-range a little clear. Because the thing is, it's you don't want the mid-range to be too muddy, because then it just sounds muffled and it sounds awful on a loud system. So I always use strong mid-range tape saturation. I use that as a default to start with. And then from there, I start making additional tweaks based on whatever sound effects that I have. So what I'm going to do first is this. Let me bypass this. And I'm going to make sure all of my instruments are playing together underneath the master at -6 dB, because you want to have a little bit of headroom to make sure that the remix, the plugins that you use for mastering, can actually do its thing and compress and boost volumes and separate EQs a little bit without distorting. So obviously start with the kick, and remember, you don't want this going to 0 just yet. You just want everything going no farther than -6 with everything playing together. So we start playing the kick, and that is a very heavy kick. I probably want that to be at -12, if not a little bit lower. So what we're going to do, we're going to start going in here and adjusting. That's the phase button. There it is right there. Okay, so this is what I've done so far. I just rolled off the EQ rolls off the hertz underneath 40 because that's all stuff you feel, not necessarily things you hear. And of course, there are additional tricks you can use. Once again, I do use a cheat sheet. I call it a cheat sheet, but like it's a really good EQ tips and things like that. I did save that to my Discord, and once again, I will post a link to my Discord right here. So if you want to go check that out, sign up, and you can get access to this cheat sheet I'm using. I can show you a little picture of it very quickly. And yeah, this does a lot for me. So I'm going to use this sheet once again to try to further EQ this track, and then when everything is done, I could do it before and after, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So we're gonna do the kick here. We got that point here. It is a little punchy. It already has enough of a thump to it, so I don't necessarily do too much more beyond that. But if we wanted to, we can probably take the second parameter here and like boost it around 80 if we really wanted to give it like a little bit more of a thump to it. The thing that I worry the most about kicks is it being muddy. In fact, I worry about that with like a lot of royalty-free samples and sound effects that we get. So I always try to like put something around, no, not that. I always try to put something around 375 hertz. We'll put this back over here where it belongs, so it doesn't look too much. Around that, as you would say, the 300, the 400, the 500 hertz area, that's where a lot of instruments can sound muddy. So they always tell you to be wary of that and be willing to like cut a little bit of the gain around those areas around, if it's necessary, around anywhere up to 3 dB. You don't want to necessarily have to go further than 3 dB, because if you do, then there's probably something a lot more going on with your mix than just standard EQ, and you probably might want to even think about getting a different sound effect. But like I always like start here and dip it down a little bit to -2, maybe -3. Ooh, let me see. Let me try it again. One day I can learn how to type. And that'll help to try to like take out some of the mid-range on this kick, so that like any instrument that really does need to be in this range can be heard a little bit better without the kick interfering with it. And that's what a lot of this EQing is about, is just making sure things can be heard. We're gonna boost the higher end of it though. That just gives us a little bit of you can get more presence, more of that slap or that snappiness to the kick. This way, you don't necessarily have to layer another kick unless you want that effect. You can always layer kicks, but like I try not to unless I really, really, really want a particular sound. I can usually just go right over here to 3, and I'm just gonna actually bump that up to 2500 hertz, kilohertz, just so we can get a little bit more of an attack. And on number 4, we're gonna get that over. It's over at 5,000 already. Keep it as a high shelf and boost that up by 2. And if you can hear it just slightly, there's a little bit more presence with it. It's a little bit brighter than it usually is. If I want to, I mean, if you have good speakers or good headphones, you can take a listen to this. You'll hear a little bit of a difference. This is without the EQ, and this is with the EQ. The changes are subtle, but with a good pair of headphones, you'll be able to hear slight differences with it. And what I want to do is, again, make sure that kick is beneath 12 dB in the master here. Looks like it's coming out on the right side a little bit more than the left. So let me pan that over there so we can try to get that a little bit closer. I don't mind my kick landing directly in the middle of the mix. I don't try to like pan it too much. I'll let all the other instruments that you need to hear pan left or pan right, depending on how you want to place your instruments and other drums and sound effects. But I always like to have the kick like coming right at you in the center, so that you can feel that wherever you are on the dance floor. So I can lower it down like that. And that's right underneath 12. That's good for now. So I want to save as I go along. We'll get the next instrument right here. It's this house beat. Yeah, there's a lot going on in here, and that kind of set this up really quickly. So what I want to do, we're already doing something here. We already got the Kickstarter plugin coming in. We already EQ'd a lot of the low end on this because we just wanted to make this more like a top loop. And it's already setting this up really high, so maybe we just need to lower the volume on this for the time being. Remember, a lot of this stuff is going to come back at you with the EQ and then mastering, so that, like, you know, even though it might sound a little low now, when we do things in the mastering, you'll be able to hear things a little bit better. So that is, make sure that this is not going too far up. I don't want this going too far above 10. That way you can still hear this, but it's not fighting too much with the kick. And now we have this next loop here from Chusing Sobalos. We'll lower this a little bit as well. You know, general rule of thumb is, like, you know, when it's just a whole bunch of drums, I don't try to do too much. I don't try to have the EQ going too high above -10, -9, unless it's going to be like a drum heavy record. Like if I was doing something like The Good Men Give It Up, and it really was just the main emphasis was the drums, and of course the drums could be much louder than this, but you just kind of need the groove to be heard and felt. And I also already did some EQ with this as well, and I have a sidechain going on here to help clean up the audio. I'm going to pan this as well a little bit to the left. And see, we're doing pretty good right now here. We have the cowbell coming in. We'll lower that as well, just a tad. And now I'll save right now just to keep going. And now we'll go and add the pad. Ooh, John Henry's in the house. How you doing, my friend? What's going on? How are you? I grabbed that sidechain program from Cable Guys. Yes, I talk about that plugin very much. It is very affordable. John Henry's in the house. Cable Guys, it's the Nicky Romero Kickstart. I think Nicky Romero just sponsors it, but yeah, this plug-in for sidechaining is actually really, really cool, and it's very inexpensive. Only, like, John Henry's posting the price, only $18. It gets the job done. It doesn't, it's not super high end, but it sounds nice and clean. And yeah, you can use it on anything, any instrument, any loop, any sound you want. And yeah, for $18, Mac or PC, is a great plugin. So I would get it if you definitely want to get like something affordable that works for all your music productions. So yeah, let's go back and play this. I may post the link to the Cable Guys thing at some point. We'll maybe post that a little bit later on in the show. But here we go. I'm sure we did some things here with the EQ here. Yeah, we could see that we did. We already tried to roll in with the pad. We rolled off at 160. This looks like exactly what we were supposed to do with this. And once again, making things a little bit less muddy here with these things that are sounds that are a little bit lower in the EQ. I'm gonna take out a little bit more. Try to make it less muddy. And then we added this. Bit more volume with this. And we try to use this more like a lead synth. That way it has more of like a front presence to it. And once again, dipping out a little bit here so we're not getting anything in that muddy area which can like make a track sound really muffled. Brighten it up a little bit here on the third and fourth band. And then, of course, the violin string. Which is interesting that I only rolled off at 100, but I think we just had one note in that whole string ensemble. So yeah, just a little bit of the rumble. We might want to make it a little bit more full, so let's try to boost right around 175. Get a little bit more volume from there. That's sounding really good. As you can see the entire time on the master here, we're still underneath that negative 6 dB, which is ideal. That's where you want everything on your EQ to be under negative 6 dB. Let's just make sure that the white noise is not too loud or dominating. That works too. All right, cool. So like now I have everything here at under negative 6. I want to go back to the mastering program that I'm using. This is a super simple EQ trick for mastering. I mean, this isn't this isn't a top end product anymore. And like I said, Ozone has much newer versions of this plugin, but Ozone 3, if you can still get your hands on this old one, it comes through in a pinch, and you can throw something together very quickly with it, and you can make something very playable at the very last minute, very last second. Especially if you just did a record like 4 hours before a gig and just want to play it, here you go, throw this in real quick, and it gets the job done. So I usually start off with a default. Again, what was the default on this one? Let me go to the presets. It is strong mid-range tape saturation. That's my favorite one. And from there, I start doing some adjustments. Again, this is the paragraphic equalizer, and as you can see, I'm doing similar things in this that I do with some of the instruments and some of the loops in the sequence itself, in the DAW itself. So like again, I'm going to become a little bit careful about the area where it can get a little muddy, and again try to adjust it so like it has that little bit of a dip. And I do know Acid has a tendency to box in sound a little bit because it's processing so much sound at once, trying to make sure everything is stretched properly. So like right around these higher areas, like around 2000 kilohertz, I like to boost up a little bit by like 1 dB. And then depending on how bright I need the track to be, if I'm not using a lot of like high-end sound effects and crashes and cymbals, I'll try to like make sure that like it's still bright over in this area. So what I'm going to do, the bypass is on. I'm going to play this without, let me see, actually let me turn down the mastering. There's mastering reverb on here as well, so I want to turn this down just a little bit because you don't necessarily need it to reverb the heck out of the entire track. But what I'm going to do, I want to play this without just those subtle changes on the mastering, and then I'm going to turn it on, and you can see if you'll see and hear a particular difference, and then I'll show you some of the other things you can do with the plugin. But let's play with it before. And then once it goes through the entire loop, I'm going to play it again with the bypass off so you can hear the differences. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the bypass when this starts again and check out the differences. Let me turn that down a little bit. As you can see, immediately it got a lot louder. And I'll show you one of the things that it does, this plugin does, to make things a little bit louder. Yeah, I should have warned you guys that things were going to get a little bit louder on this one. I apologize. Yes, I should have warned you guys that this was going to get a little bit louder. But these are some of the things that happen with excuse me, with this particular plugin. Bringing it back on the screen, there's a loudness maximizer. This is one of the main reasons why the track gets a big boost in volume and loudness, and this is like a nice compressor on this little plugin. And what you do, you have the threshold and you have the margin here. This is where it defaults on that setting that I gave you, that I selected here. But you can continue to further adjust this, and this will help to give that track even more loudness. You just got to be careful with it because you can easily distort with it. But you know, when you want to get that track up to like 0, this would be one of the things that you use to help do that. So, you know, if you have a regular compressor, you can do something similar to this, but you know, the one in Ozone 3 happens to be really good. I usually take this and boost that up to like -1, if not up to 0. That way I know that, like, you know, it's giving this plugin all the headroom it needs to do whatever else it needs to play and bang in the club. And depending on my EQ, I can also lower the threshold and give it even more of a range for it to play with. And the lower this goes and the higher this goes, the louder the track can become. And of course, you don't want to do it too much because then it starts getting distorted. And that was like one of the big problems with the whole loudness wars. And again, that's another topic that we can talk about on this stream. There's a whole bunch of issues when everyone was trying to master for CDs and DVDs and just trying to make things louder and louder and louder. And at some point, the tracks became so bad and inaudible compared to like the originals. People started revolting, and at the end of the day, it was really about just not necessarily trying to use compression to like make things so loud that you strip the dynamics of the sound and the instruments that you're trying to listen to. Some things need to be quieter. Some things need to be a little louder. Some things need to be, you know, not everything needs to be playing at the same exact volume or the same loudness in order to hear it and feel it. So that's just a very brief rundown of the loudness wars. There's other things too, but we're not going to get into it right now. The other things that are part of this, there's a multi-band harmonic exciter, which is actually pretty nice. What I tend to do is I just give it a little bit of a nudge. I know the mid-range can be a little boxy, sometimes an acid, so I this is where I wind up doing a little bit of extra work within the mid-range on all these last three things: the multi-band harmonic exciter, the multi-band dynamics. This is giving gain to just the low end, the mid-range, and the high end. And remember, all these things are movable. You can actually readjust these as necessary. And all these other parameters could be adjusted as well. I don't necessarily have to go too deep into it because this default, that's all part of the program, does a lot of what it needs to do. But like if you really wanted to get that particular with it, you can see all the different types of parameters you can play with it. And keep in mind, Ozone 9 and the upcoming Ozone 10, and that actually might be out right now, but the later versions of it get even much more detailed than this. So you can get really, really particular about it. The stereo imaging, I do something similar with this as well. I kind of make sure that the mid-range is a little bit higher than the other part. a little bit of a boost to the bass here. That way it still stays a little thumpy. Because keep in mind, we are still rolling off bass here in the paragraphic EQ. And remember, I like to try to roll off frequencies beneath 40, even in digital files, because it simulates the idea of vinyl. Because, on vinyl records, like if you had too many frequencies below 40, it would vibrate the needle and make the needle jump. Fernando De Los is in the house. Fernando De Los from the Quad Squad is back inside the booty lounge. How you doing, my friend? Welcome back. So yeah, the paragraphic EQ, like again, rolling off a little bit, rolling off beneath 40, so that we can try to mimic some of the things you can do on vinyl mastering. It tries to keep the track a little warm, and keeping in mind that, like, even if your EQ is not 100% perfect, the DJ, depending on how he or she plays, they're going to use the EQ knobs and kind of add a little bit of an emphasis and a little bit more of a boost to it anyhow. So they have their way of being able to do things on their own end. Just as long as they don't have to twist the knobs too much, you're doing really good. And yeah, Explosive Radio, Mr. Tommy Styles is here. How are you? You are hanging out with us real late on our stream on Sunday. And yeah, I don't even know how I'm alive. That was a long stream for me, 8 hours. I'll talk about that by the end of the show. Right now we're going to get back into this EQing here. But yeah, just as you can see, I do very slight touches from the default to the presets that are already here. A lot of these plugins, especially with like Ozone, the presets, go through them all and like listen to the ones that kind of just take whatever your mix is and already gives you at least, I would say, 40 to 50% of what you want, because then at that point your adjustments are just small and minor. I mean, if it turns out that none of the presets work, then you could do everything by hand. You could do everything step by step and get really detailed. But there's a good chance you might not have to get that detailed into the program. I never had to do that with Ozone 3. This one setting has done very well for me with all my dance music productions. So I always use it as a backup when I can't do anything much more advanced or just don't have the time to do it. So like again, it comes through in a pinch. And what I want to do, I want to turn down the DAW so it's not too loud right now, and I'm going to slowly but surely boost up the volume so you can actually hear this with everything playing at a decent volume. So let's go right here. Let's start it right now. Once again, that's with the mastering plugin bypassed, and this is with it on. You can definitely see a much bigger difference with the way this sounds just with this little plugin right here. And yeah, Ozone is that powerful. There's everyone's gonna have like their more preferred tool for mastering, and mastering, you'll be doing it forever and ever and ever and ever. And just when you think you have it all down, there'll be another person who'll come along with a brand new trick, and it'll make you rethink everything you thought you knew about mastering. In fact, that'll actually make me want to get someone on here to talk about this in more detail. I know a couple of people, Richie Beretta for one, and Carlos Ruiz. They're really, really good with mastering, and they have like super heavy duty tools. Like they're not using Ozone, they're using real hardware and doing some amazing things with EQ and mastering. Maybe one of these days I can try to get them on the show and share us with some tips. You know, I wind up learning off of them. They're really good at what they do. They're really good guys too. I think Richie Beretta's doing a stream here on Twitch every so often, I think once a week, with some mastering and some EQ. He's a very talented guitarist as well. So I'll find out his socials and I'll post the links here so you can follow him as well. He's really, really cool. Very Italian. Very awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I'm very fond of Italians, but that's a different story. Okay, let's get back into this EQ. I'm going to save this for right now. I pretty much just did the drums, the pads, and the string. I didn't do the bass. So we're going to go back into this. I'm going to bypass this mastering for right now. I'm going to turn on this bass note that we have here and make sure that this bass is actually fitting in this EQ as well, and making sure that it's not too loud. And again, you know, now that it's bypassed, you want the master to be under 6 dB, nothing going over that volume. So here we go. See, this is a good example. You're already seeing places where it actually goes over, and it goes over by a lot, you can tell. So like, we got to do some things here to try to tame that. So if you really want to see without the bass note, let's take that out, and you'll see that you'll see that it won't even peak up that high anymore. Watch. So yeah, when we turn on the bass, something the way some of the sounds are landing, it's causing this to go above negative 6 dB. So we have to just be careful with it. Bass is back on, and as you can see, there it goes right here. So yeah, we definitely have a little bit of work to do with this bass noise. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to just have the drum and the kick noise and the bass playing together. Sometimes that's what you need to do. Now keep in mind, you have your kick around negative 12 dB, maybe a little bit lower. So if I play the bass and the kick together, you don't want it to be too loud. So let's just see where we are with this. That is a heavy bass with this kick. So let's look at the EQ on the bass here. Did we do anything with it? No, we didn't. So yeah, we will definitely have to do something with this just to make sure that the bass is not causing too much drama here. So we got a nice heavy synthy bass. You know, that type of bass that feels good. It rattles the system. We all like it. You know we do. But you know, we can't be breaking speakers. We can't have tracks that like pop speakers all over the place. As much as we think it would be cool, we can't do it. So first thing we're going to do with the bass synth, we're going to roll off everything beneath 80. Reason being is that we have the kick with these lower frequencies here. Remember, on the kick, we roll off below 40. So between 40 and 80, you have more of the kick taking those frequency spaces, for taking up that range, so that the bass doesn't have to conflict with that and make the track even more beefier than it needs to be on the low end. And as you can see, you can still hear the bass. Now, let's see where we are. And see, we already are lowering some of the volume here. Let's take off the track EQ just with this. You're gonna see it's getting louder just as is. It's getting a little bit louder, but then when you put it back on, when you roll off that range below 80, it starts to go down in volume a little bit. So we're already taking care of some of the needs that we need with this. Okay, so again, with all the noises, I definitely try to make sure the muddy range is not. We gotta take care of that area where it could get a little muddy. So we'll just put that at -2 for the time being. And just on those things alone, you can already see we are lowering the volume here, which is good because that's going to allow more room for some of the other drums and other sound effects that we have in this record. We may want the bass to have a little bit more presence than this. So what we'll do, we will go here to parameter 3. How do I want to do it? Do we want more pressure? We don't really need more. Well, let's actually try that. We're gonna add a little bit more body and pressure to the bass. So we're gonna move parameter number 2. I'm gonna move that to 175 and bump it up by 2. Then I'll give it a little bit more pressure so you can actually feel it a little bit more. And then on the third parameter, we're going to take care of the muddiness by dipping that by -2. See the bass line, see where it's getting even lower over here. So we're going to take the presence, we're going to make it a little brighter, just a tad. We'll move that around 2000 and keep the high shelf up there, and we'll just go 1.5, just a touch. Remember, you don't want to have to go too far up or below 3, up to 3 dB or to -3 dB. Anything beyond that, you might have to do a lot more with the track itself or the instrument. And we already got a compressor, so the compressor helps to make this a little bit louder. But already, I think that bass sound is sounding better over that kick than the way it did before. We'll do another before and after just to make sure. Here's the track EQ before. It's definitely more aggressive beforehand. And you can actually feel, like if you're listening to this in your headphones, you can actually feel some of the bass like go away from the kick when you turn on the EQ with that rolled off bass below 80. You can actually hear it a little bit better. So let's see. I'm going to start turning on all the other instruments as well, one by one. And then once everything sounds right, I'm going to kick back in our Ozone and see exactly what it sounds like. So let's go. And if it turns out I need to lower the volume, I will lower it a tiny bit, but so far so good. So far I'm liking this. Let's keep going. Now let's add the pad. Now I'm already noticing that the pad has these major swells in certain areas, and those could be places that can, with all the other instruments playing at the same time, they could be causing the problem with the spikes. So I am going to have to be a little wary about that, and if I have to, we'll lower the volume a little bit or put another volume envelope just to like deal with those those small parts. But let's keep going. We're going to add this little lead synth now. Remember last time when we were playing this, Remember when we were playing all this stuff together, at one point we were getting above negative 5 dB, even over getting into like the negative 4 range, which is definitely way too loud if you're trying to keep everything within the right range for like mastering. So right now, with the adjustments we made to that bass, we're now at negative 6. We're still under negative 6 dB, so it's nice and clean, or at least good on the ears. You don't want it to be too loud. And everything is still audible. It's good to know that everything is still staying underneath 6 dB, negative 6 dB. Let's turn on the string. It's a high-end string, so the chances of this really making this go way above negative 6 is slim, but it could. You just got to be careful with it. Definitely doing a lot better. No frequency is going into like the negative 5, negative 4 range. So there's actually one more sound effect that we have to deal with here before I turn back on the Ozone plugin. And it's this one right here, track number 3. Actually, let me get back into this, and boom. And it was this one right here. We were using this as like a little bit of a filtered synth as well. And let's see, do we already have EQs? We did a lot with this. Wow, look at this. Resident filter, reverb, the Kickstarter plugin, track compressor. Looks like we already did what we needed to do with the EQ. And in fact, I'm remembering that we originally were going to use this more like a bass, but then we had decided that we were going to make this more like a synth, so we rolled off a lot of the bass frequency on this already. Everything under 160 is out, so then that way you can have that play over the bass. This sounds more like a synth now instead of it just being a bass note. And yeah, I think that's okay. So let's play everything together and see exactly what it sounds like. Let's see. Yes, that's doing much, much better with the levels here. Everything's staying at negative 6 dB or lower. Our little explosion, our little diva, my little diva Nevada. You know, you can never have too many booms in a record. Sometimes you need to lower that just a little bit. But beyond that, it's all seemed to be fitting really well. So I'm going to bring back our lovely Ozone plugin. Now this is where I'm going to tell you guys to just be wary of the volume. It's definitely going to go up a bit what I want to do, I'm going to turn it down here on the master, so we're not blowing out eardrums or anything like that. I'm going to turn it on, and we're going to play it again, and then I'm going to slowly but surely bring up the volume on the DAW, and then that way you can hear the differences in the volume, the loudness, the clarity. You can check it out yourself. Here we go. I think that sounds a lot better than what it was sounding like. Ooh. Did I forget to take off my microphone again? I swear I need to have a better solution here for my mic. But yeah, best thing to do here, always do your EQ and your mastering. I always use the most busiest part of the track, because at least that way, you know, everything's playing at the same time, and you know, if you have to make any little subtle adjustments to make sure things fit, you can, knowing that the rest of the track, it should be fine. And then, you know, if worse comes to worse, volume envelopes to help tame some of that volume. And let's see. So now that we have the track at this point, I'm kind of thinking about, honestly, I'm thinking about a vocal. I don't know exactly what vocal to use with this. Now, I went back and forth on trying to find the vocal parts to the New Dimension and trying to make this into an actual remix of the New Dimension, because that would be really cool if we can get this out on Magna Recordings, where we signed the original. I can't find those vocals though. That's the problem with a record that you released 19 years ago. Sometimes it's hard to find all the parts. But I'm thinking of vocal for this. Let's see. Sequence wise, at this point, I figured it would be great to just have the breakdown, a short breakdown to just kind of like helps you build a little bit of energy, then it kicks right back in, and then you just let it go right back out. So, you know, it's 11 o'clock now. Since I can't focus on the vocal right now, since I don't know exactly what it is, we can try to sequence this out just a little bit more, because I figured at that point we will have a track, we'll have even more of a track. So what I'm going to do, I want to take this off of, I'm going to bypass the mastering plugin right now, so we can actually just hear the track, and then from there we'll just sequence. So we build up the energy, and then it's going to drop. Let's see. Bypass. Boom. There we go. Here we go. I think it would be really cool to just let it break down like that for a little bit. Just let it, after it builds, let's take out a couple of the kicks right here. That way people know, people can get like that little clue that like the drop is about to come in. You know, let people know what's happening with the track so they're not guessing too much. So let's put this right here and then we'll put a little explosion right there. Drops. We're going to give that little and then the cowbell comes in. And a drop coming in here. And the whole idea is just like in the beginning, you just slowly but surely bring in one element at a time or a certain amount of elements, but not everything at the same time, so you can see what it would sound like to just build the energy again. Point we can bring back the string. So just to give you a general idea of like what our build up is sounding like at this point, let's drop it out and let's start it here and we can just drop it out and you can listen to it. So what I want to do now, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm actually going to take out the cowbell from here because we have the synth there. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. The problem with like a lot of your sequencing is that you're just trying to figure out what's the right order, what feels best for you. And, you know, we get stuck on these points over and over and over again, trying to figure out exactly what is the right formula for building up a track, knocking it down, blah, blah, blah. So let's try this and see what happens. Oh my God, I gotta talk again. I gotta do something better with this microphone here. I really gotta do something better with this setup so people can hear me. Okay. So at this point, we're gonna start bringing in more of the drum, and that's gonna be at 121. And I think the two Centavalo's drums will sound really good at this point. I want to bring in another piece, and then I want to slowly but surely start fading that in through a simple volume envelope, just to give you a little bit of extra drama here. And we're almost done here. So now let's start with the break. Can you hear me now? Let's take this off now. So now we're starting to see that it's building a little bit more energy. So now we can get a little bit more theatrical with our white noise. Fade in, fade out. Well, reverse it. Let's look at build up and build down. And now we're gonna get to this point. And do we want this to fade in as well as the same way as this? I don't think we do. So let's play it, and then at this point, we're gonna almost be ready to just let the record drop one more time, and just like give you the like the meat and potatoes. Boom, give them like what they're waiting for, the fanfare, all the this is what you've been waiting for, etc., etc. Let it groove for a bit until we can start breaking the track down, and this could be like a really short 6 to 7 minute record. So let's see what this sounds like so far with the break. And as you can see, you're constantly playing the same parts over and over and over again. That's why sometimes as producers, we are sick of our records when we're done with them. Yeah. Now it sounds like I know exactly what to do just to end this. And what we're gonna do at this point, we already know at 1:45, everything should just kick right back in. That's like at the 4.5 minute mark. We wind up having a breakdown that's a little bit more, like, let's see, is it about a minute long? Yeah, about a little bit more than a minute, like a minute and a half breakdown. More than enough time to like build up some drama. So what we're gonna do is this. Let's play this a little bit and figure out exactly what parts we're gonna take out right at this one point, just so that people think it's building, and then at the very last minute something happens, and then you can hear the transition going right back into the track, just kicking right back in full gear. So let's try this, and let's play it. Okay, so at least we know at that point that's where it's going to kick back in. But there's still some things we can do to make this a little bit more dramatic. And, it may require adding a few more effects to it. But let's see. We'll go right here and we'll take out this drum at this one point. At 1:44, we'll take the drums out right here. We'll take out all the percussion and just let it be exactly what it needs to be. Take that out. We'll put in a little kick right there. So that'll accent the little boom right here to give it just a little bit more of a push. And yeah, that might just be all we need for the time being. Let's just listen to it very quickly. Okay, so let's take out this one more drum here. And what I was thinking is that, like, even if we wanted to just go there, we can just give them the drum roll if we wanted to. Again, this doesn't have to stay in the track as well. But, we can put in a drum roll right at that one point, and we'll EQ. We'll have to worry about EQing that as well. And look who's here, the man of sound, Wayne Knox. Go! How are you doing over there in Vancouver? We're going to drop that out right there, and we're almost done with I think we're almost done with the breakdown and the build up to the meat and potatoes of the track again, as you would say. We'll add a little bit more, as you would say, transitional bitch makeup the next time we do this stream, because I think we're almost done. We really are. Because once the track kicks back in, it kind of almost repeats what we did here before to build it back up. And we are now the track will be at 6 minutes and 42 seconds long. So yeah, we'll have more than enough time to just break the track down and give you beats to mix out of. You'll have a 7 to 8 minute track, and a lot of people think this is difficult to do. And what happens is that, like, it's just the arrangement. that becomes like the harder problem when you have all the instruments and just you want to tease people the right way, you want to build the right energy, you want it to be progress, you want it to progress the best way it possibly can without it necessarily just giving you everything at once after the first minute, and then at that point, what else do? You you kind of get stuck. But let's listen to this now with this little drum fade here, and we'll see what it sounds like. Let's see, is there anything else to take out here? Yeah, what I think I'm going to do is take out this synth at that one point and make sure that there's nothing playing there other than the drum roll and the violin. And I think that'll be enough of a way to just build back up from the drop. And we'll see what happens. Yeah, with a little bit of additional effects, this will sound really, really cool. I think it would work really well. In fact, this could be something that we can finish. It's going to be something that we're going to be able to finish very quickly within the next week or two. We'll definitely have this done within the next session or two. And who knows, we might just have to debut it in front of everyone on DrumNation on one of our upcoming shows. And let everyone vote on it and decide if it's a good thing or if, like, we can try to do a little bit more additional work on it. But either way, we're almost done with this. A basic groove that we started just by fooling around a couple of weeks ago is almost ready for prime time. Let's actually just adjust the snare drum a little bit here, just to make sure that it is playing the way it needs to play. And again, we're going to use that little cheat sheet that I have. Get the EQ here. We are going to roll off the low rumble at 120. So we'll go here. That way, no low frequencies on the snare are fighting with the bass. None of them are fighting them with the kick or anything like that. This is one of the few times where, like, the area that we normally would be dipping for muddiness, we actually want to boost, because this is where most of the characteristics of the snare is within this area. Like, that's the 200 to 400. Normally we'd be dipping in that area, but in here we're going to boost a little bit. So let's go up to 2. And apparently there is this thing called the ring. The snare drums can make like a ringing noise that some people don't want in their tracks. I don't run into that too much because I don't use a lot of snares. But excuse me. But like, if you do have like that weird noise, there's a range around between 250 and 600. You can actually just like dip around with this a little bit and just play with it and see if it actually makes it sound a little bit better or worse. You don't always have to use every EQ trick. Depending on the sound that you're using, it may already be processed enough where you don't have to do much more EQ to it at all. You just need to make it fit within your sequence and whatever other sounds you have on your DAW and everything like that. So we're gonna deal with that for now. We're not gonna do anything with that for now. And it says the bang and the smack. Yeah, you want to be able to let that really hit you, as you would say, between two and 2,000 and 4,000 kilohertz. Let's boost this to 3,000. And then turn that up a little bit. And a little bit of air and definition. Do we need a little bit? Maybe. We'll put up to 6,000. And bump that up by 1 dB. And we may just need to like watch the volume on that just a tiny bit, because you know snares can be loud. But let's see now. I'm gonna go down to I'm just gonna play the break all the way from the beginning. Actually, I want to do it from here. We're gonna get the full like meat and potatoes from what we're doing here. So we'll play this. It'll build up. It'll drop down right here, and then we'll have a slow build that goes up. It takes about a minute for it to build, and then it'll drop once again. We'll see how it sounds. Let's go. And of course, with a little bit more, as you would say, bitch makeup, we can make this even more dramatic. Thinking that we may also want to find another little, like, you know, synthy noise to help you build up some energy here. Something that we haven't used before in the track to just give this just even more energy and more feeling. But I think, you know, we'll look for that on the next session. And then what we'll do, fit that into the mix. And then by the time we get to this point here, it's at more than 6.5 minutes. We'll just do a simple outro. And this record will be about like sometime somewhere between 7 to 8 minutes long. And it'll be more than perfect for playing. At least I hope it'll be perfect for playing, you know? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make records that we want to play in our sets. Things that we will play on a future show at DrumNation. And yes, when we finish this, we'll give that a test run right there on the show. And we'll let people see exactly what we've been doing, and maybe they'll like it, be able to just say, go back to playing Britney Spears or something. You never know. But anyhow, it is 11:27, and I'm barely standing after the live stream the Sunday show that we did here. We went 8 hours. And I haven't been asleep. So, you know, because we have friends from New York here. They're visiting for for a couple of days. And yeah, so it's been non-stop here ever since I did that show. So yeah, I'm not doing too well with energy here. I'm surprised I'm still awake. But anyhow, I'm saving this. We are going to come back to this on the next stream. I'm thinking, last week we didn't do 2 streams. And I do want to do 2 streams a week. We will try to get the next production stream around Thursday. Jolt, dude, that is exactly what I need, sleep. And I'm definitely going to be getting some. I'm actually going to make myself a nice cup of hot tea. And I got some nice reading material that I'm going to just take to bed with me. And I'm just going to zone out and try to get myself a good 8 hours of sleep. But yeah. Next production stream, we're going to try to do it on Thursday, around either 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will post all that information up on my socials, so we will know what's going on. And of course, the next time you're going to see me here streaming in general, it will be on Wednesdays, part of High Five Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be doing my regular DrumNation daytime show. And yeah, we'll play music. We'll have a lot of fun. We'll try to get you to the weekend a little bit faster because that's what that's all about. And don't forget that the High Five Wednesdays raid train gets started at 12 noon with Zaya XO. She gives you that delicious techno starting at noon. Banks out the beats for 3 hours. It's always a lot of fun. I go on right after her. And then at 6 p.m., we'll have either hopefully we'll have Gualtier Malde playing back with us at 6 p.m. I know he's been working on a whole bunch of new things at his new location. He's doing a lot of exciting stuff, but they're still trying to get together a nice new streaming setup so they can start broadcasting shows again. But that hasn't happened. We'll find out if it happens, and we'll let you all know. Then at 9 p.m. will be our wild card. And lately our wild card has been the one and only Tommy Styles. We'll try to figure out if he wants to do it again and see maybe if we can try to get Will Silvano to play as well. Maybe. And at midnight it's supposed to be Felicia Villani. She will be coming back to us very soon, hopefully. She's dealing with some personal issues right now, and much love to her and everything that she's doing down at the dojo. We're looking forward to her return very, very soon. But that's going to be happening on Wednesday. Right now, I'm looking at a list for people to raid, and there are some people on here that I might want to support. There definitely are some people. Let's see. Cheesefoot raided me yesterday. So I think we should just return the favor. We have a few people here. We can go raid his party and see exactly what he's all about. Raid Cheesefoot with 2 O's. With 2 zeros. So yes, we're going to go raid Cheesefoot. I will see you back here Wednesday for DrumNation Daytime and Thursday for the production stream. We'll continue this track. We may actually finish the track on Thursday, so go tell your friends. We might actually have our very first baby from inside the booty. Ooh, that doesn't sound right. Babies don't come from the booty, but our music does. That doesn't even sound right either. We may have our first track from the studio here, so stay tuned for the raid. I will see you guys and gals next time. Once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me here. And let's go. I'll see you on Wednesday. Until then, take care and have a great rest of your day, night, wherever you are. Bye-bye. And stay tuned for the raid. And yes, all of those booty jokes sounded entirely wrong. But that's part of the reason why we do it, right? See you guys later. Bye.